Okay, so we're going to take a look at how to simplify fractions. What that means, let's just, even before we get into how we do it, what that means is you're taking a fraction that looks really, really big, and it may not be worth a lot just because it's a big number. Like, let me show you to this. 1 out of 932. This is not worth a lot. This is worth, like if I had 932 pieces, like imagine Lego pieces, and I was allowed to choose one. I'm not walking away with a bag full of Lego. I'm walking away with a bag with one piece of Lego in it. Okay, so just because the number might look big, just because it's out of a big number, or even if it was like 17, you're like, whoa, 17 out of 932. It doesn't mean that it's big, right? This is 932 pieces and I get to choose 17. So what we do is we try and reduce our fraction so that you're like, oh, I understand that number a little bit more. Because if I said to, for example, if I said to a child, I said, you can have 1 out of 2 pieces, they could make sense of that. But if I, let's say, I'm going to add on 2 zeros here. Actually, hang on a second. If I said you can have 100 out of 200 pieces, they might be like, and if I said you can have 1,000 out of 2,000 pieces, they would definitely, their minds would be blown. And if I said, guess what, guys, you can have 10,000 of 20,000 pieces. It's worth the same amount, right? Like, let's say I'm cutting a pizza. Let's just be ridiculous. We're cutting that pizza into 20,000 pieces. If they're allowed 10,000 of those pieces, they're actually getting the exact same amount as if they just wanted half of that pizza. That's what simplifying is it's giving us a fraction that makes more sense. Now, you can use this actually to your advantage, and marketers, or people in marketing, they do. Maybe you really want to deceive somebody and you're like, oh, it's only this amount, but really people would make more sense of the fraction if they knew it was a half. But if you're giving them a number that seems more obscure, they might be like, oh, that sounds like a really good deal. But generally we want to simplify it. We don't want to complicate it. Like you can make your fraction as big as you want it. But we want to take a big fraction and make it small so that way our brains can instantly look at that fraction and be like, I know what that number is. So let's look at this. 1 out of 10 is the same value, it's the same worth as 10 out of 100. I'm not going to draw 100 little lines, but I challenge you to. I think you'll have a lot of fun doing that. If I had a pizza and I cut my pizza into 10 pieces and I ate one piece, I'm going to eat the exact same amount as if I cut my pizza into 100 pieces and I ate 10 of those pieces. Simplifying is when we have a big number and we make it small. I can't draw an arrow today. So let me show you what this looks like, because instead of 100 pieces, I want to show you with like a smaller fraction that we're going to make even smaller to make sense of this. If someone has a fraction that is like 2/4, it's 2 out of 4. It's the same as a half, and I can tell because I'm coloring it in. I can tell because I'm making it visual. I have a circle. I'm cutting it into 4. I'm going to have the exact same size circle. You can't be like, oh, but look, it's a smaller circle. I'm going to cut it. No, that's stupid. Okay, the circle has to be the same size or this doesn't work. So I've got a circle. I'm cutting it into 4. I'm going to color in 2 of those 4 pieces. Over here, I've got a half. I'm cutting it into 2 and I'm coloring in 1/2. Your eyes can tell. You look at this, you're like, yep, those are both a half. It gets a little bit harder. Like, let's say your fraction is out of 11. That might be a little bit harder to tell. But the whole goal of simplifying is to make it smaller. So let me show you how we do this without getting into, I don't want to get into like greatest common factor, lowest common multiple. We're not there yet. So let's just start off nice and simple. How do I do this? My goal is I'm trying to find a number that can go into the top and the bottom. And I know, looking at this fraction, because I'm really good at my 2 times table, that 2 goes into 2 and 2 also goes into 4. So let's say I'm going to use the magical number of 2. Okay, so how many times does 2 go into 2? It goes in at once. How many times does 2 go into 4? It goes in twice. And I put my line there. Okay, so 2 out of 4 is the same as 1.5. So let me just clarify that one more time, how I did that. I'm counting how many times my magical number, my 2, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, I know that 2 goes into 2 and I know that 2 goes into 4. I specifically chose that because I'm really good at number 2. I would not choose a number 7 or 8 because those are really challenging. I'll show you with 3 next. So how many times does 2 go into 2? It goes in 1 time, right? Like I've got a group of 2. How many times does 2 go in? It goes in once, right? So I've got my 1 right here. How many times can 2 fit into 4? It can fit in twice. So that's why I put my 2 over here. Let me show you again with a slightly bigger number, okay? And I want to show you, this is actually kind of interesting. So, let's actually try this again. And this is kind of fun. Let's say I'm going to stick with my magical number 2. Whenever I try and simplify a fraction, I always just go with 2. Why not? Why not start with the easiest and then work your way to 3 and maybe 4? And if you're feeling dangerous, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, right? But start with 2. I know that 2 can go into 4, and I know that 2 can go into 8 because it's an even number. So watch this. How many times can 2 go into 4, right? Like I've got my 4 fingers, I've got a group here, and I've got a group here. So it can fit in twice. I'm going to put my little line here. How many times can 2 fit into 8? I like being visual here, okay? So I got my 5, I got my 3 here. I've got one group here, I got 2 groups here, I got a group here, and I got a group. So 4, right? It can fit in 4 times. Now here's the interesting thing, and this, I actually kind of like when this happens. This is kind of fun. I can actually simplify this again, just like you saw like a whole minute ago. I can simplify this because how many times can 2 go into 2? It can go in once. How many times can 2 go into 4? It goes in twice. Now, if you're not even able to get to this section, it doesn't matter to me. This is what we're working on. This is the first step. This is, can we make this number smaller? And I think I can speak for literally everyone in the world when I say that we can generally picture 2 out of 4 maybe easier than we can picture 4 out of 8. We can almost always picture 1 out of 2 is easier than 2 out of 4. But the smaller we can get our numbers, the easier it is to understand what that fraction looks like. That's why we're simplifying. We don't have to simplify, but it makes it easier for us to then be like, oh, I know that fraction. Whereas if we had a much bigger number, like let's say 33 out of 99, you're like, whoa, that's really hard and confusing and I don't get it. But if we can simplify that number, then you're gonna be like, oh, I know that. I can picture how to deal with that. So let me just show you one more time. I want to show you, watch this, get ready, so exciting. 3 out of 9, and I'm going to try and divide by 2. I know I can't because I chose that on purpose. Haha. But watch this. How many times can 2 go into 3? Well, I've got 3. It can go in once, but I've got like a leftover number, so that doesn't work. So I can't use 2, but it was worth a try. Let's try 3. How many times can 3 go into 3? Well, guess what? I've got 3. It goes in once. Like I've got one group of 3, so it goes in one time. How many times can 3 go into 9? Let's just, again, I like being visual. We got our 9. We got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Goes in 9, 3 times. So 3 goes into 9 3 times, and there's our fraction. The nice thing is, you know what, there's probably always going to be an exception, but let's just say almost always. Once you get down to 1, you're as low as you can go. So there we are. This is awesome. 1 out of 3. Let's live dangerously. Let's do 5. Okay. So 5 out of 25. I really like my 5 times table. That's why I chose this one. So again, I'm going to start with 2 because why not, right? How many times can 2 go into 5? Here's my 5. I've got one group, and I've got 1 left over. So that doesn't work. I can't use 2. Let's try with 3. How many times can 3 go into 5? Let's try this, right? I got 1, 2, 3. I've got a group of 3, and I've got 2, but I can't make it 3, so I can't use 3. So that doesn't work. Let's try 4. I've got my group of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's awesome, but I got 1 left over. So that's not awesome. So now I can't use 4. So I'm going to work my way up to 5. Look at this. Let's try number 5. How many times can 5 go into 5? It goes in once. So I'm going to put my 1 on the top. I'm taking my 5 and reducing it to 1, right? 5 goes into 5 one time. Let's put in a number line. How many times does 5 go into 25? I can't show you that on my fingers, but let's just count it out, okay? So I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, right? There's my groups of 5. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 5. So I'm going to put in my 5 right there. So 5 out of 25 is the same as 1 out of 5. And as much as I like my 5 times tables, I definitely would rather see 1 out of 5 versus 5 out of 25. That to me is way clearer. So again, that is the purpose. That is what simplifying a fraction is we're taking a number like this and we're making it like this. We're taking a way bigger number and we're making it a smaller number so that our brains can make sense of it. We've not actually changed the value. We're not changing how much it's worth. We're not really changing actually what you can do with the fraction, because you can do the same thing with this fraction as this fraction. All we're doing with simplifying is making it so that we can instantly be like, I know what that is. That's all this is, okay? So again, to do that, you try and find a number that can go into the top and the bottom. If I had a number that could go into the top but not the bottom, That doesn't help me. Then I'm going to incorrectly simplify my fraction, and that doesn't work. So again, I would just start with 2, then go to 3, like you just saw, go to 4, go to 5, work your way up until you find a number that goes into it. You might wind up with a fraction that you actually can't reduce. Like, let's say you have a super crazy odd number, like 11 out of, let's just go like 11 out of 12. This is as low as you can go. You can't make this any lower. So you could start with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, go all the way up. And it might happen that you're like, this is as low as it is, which is good and bad. I mean, you simply just copy down the question. That's your answer. But maybe it's bad because you're like, how do you wrap your mind around 11/12? Like, what does that actually look like? So anyways, there we are. Good luck. Hope that helps.